Let me start by saying no, I did not buy Saints Row, nor do I need to, because you don't necessarily have to play a game to know if it's a flop. Even based on trailers and even gameplay trailers, you can tell how bad a game might be. If you look closely, you can even see bad frame rate, pop-ins, and lack of NPCs for Saints Row based on those trailers alone. So how is it that people were surprised that this game basically flopped? Now, yes, the series does have their fans, but let's be honest here, Saints Row hasn't really been the amazing sandbox experience that fans make it out to be, and I'm tired of fanboys who are afraid to admit when their franchises fail or when they don't deliver on what the fans actually want, and they give you their whole bullshit about how amazing this game is and you're just not a fan, so you don't understand. You need to be able to own up as a fanboy and admit when your favorite franchises fail and when they do something wrong. Now, Saints Row started out originally as a GTA parody, and yeah, Saints Row do have their little bit of fun differences. GTA always dominated Saints Row. Saints Row, in my opinion, always had like stupid jokes, lame characters, and bland story. And the only real gimmick that Saints Row had over GTA was the customization that you were given. Now, with this reboot, it could be the end of the Saints Row franchise, even to the point where stocks are dropping from these companies for the Saints Row game because the sales are not looking good and neither are the reviews. And honestly, who the hell cares? With the countless videos on YouTube, it seems like all of the complaints are primarily the same. Endless bugs and glitches, boring story, lame characters, crappy jokes, etc. Also, the fact that the game was delayed from its initial release, and while some trailers released for this game prior to its release, we didn't really see much in those trailers that were released to really convince us otherwise that the game was going to be a success. Think back to Cyberpunk 2077, when reviewers were given a review code, they were forced by CD Projekt Red to only use footage that was provided by CD Projekt Red. Reviewers were not allowed to use footage that they recorded from their gameplay. And Cyberpunk has been in a quote-unquote development for about 8 years or so, roughly. But in reality, realistically, it might have only had like maybe 2 or so years of actual development, which is why the game was such a disaster at launch. And the game is primarily a failure due to those bugs and glitches and other issues with the game, and a lot of promised game mechanics that was removed. Because the game itself, Cyberpunk itself, had a somewhat interesting story and a decent idea. The map itself was both interesting and yet kind of stupid at the same time. But my point here being is that you get promised all these different things from developers, but they are unable to deliver, and Saints Row seems to be continuing that trend here. So Saints Row apparently does not have some great driving controls, very poor gunplay, with no cover system. Saints Row 3 had a cover system, and they have the inclusion of the grapple and the wingsuit, which is clearly quote-unquote borrowed from like Just Cause and Batman. And this would have been a good mechanic to have if the game released a few years ago, but those mechanics are kind of put to rest, not really being seen as used for games anymore. Even with the upcoming Gotham Knights, I don't think they're necessarily using a glide mechanic for these characters, with the exception of Nightwing with his stupid glider thing, and maybe Batgirl is going to use her cape to glide, but at least that makes sense for the Batman universe. But for Saints Row releasing in 2022 to use these now somewhat outdated mechanics, kind of feels like the game itself is outdated. Now, as I said earlier, there are countless reviews on the internet with the same thoughts, more or less. And I've had people tell me in the past, the can't trust reviews if you never played the game because that's just reviewers' opinions. So you're telling me that just about everyone who reviewed the game is wrong because they all have the same thoughts and quote-unquote opinions about a game, and that I should waste my money to buy the game and find out for myself whether or not it's a flop? That's not how game reviews work necessarily. If endless reviewers on the internet, both on YouTube and even Kotaku and probably other review sources, if they're all saying the same thing, the game is boring or buggy or uninteresting, uninspired, then you're telling me that all of them are wrong? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Now, it's obvious that this game is a failure, and it should have been obvious to people before the game release, because as I said before, we didn't necessarily get enough information to prove us otherwise. Yes, we had some reviews and trailers and stuff like that, but nothing that was there for us to say, wow, this is going to be an amazing, badass game, I'm going to go spend my $60 and buy it. Nothing really jumped out for me, and I'm surprised it didn't really work that way for other people too. Like, it wasn't like they were hiding the fact that it was going to be bad. It was kind of like unintentionally showing you that it was going to be bad, if you kind of know what I mean. Now, Saints Row is the type of game that kind of makes me cautious of, buying games in the near future. I've had times where I pre-ordered a game and ended up very disappointed with my pre-order and with the game itself, and it's why I am continuing to do what I normally do, which is countless research on a game before I buy it, just to make sure that I'm not going to be wasting my money on, honestly, a piece of crap. And I also was unable to find any real mention of the co-op gameplay. So either it's not available on day one, or no one found the interest to play the game in co-op, which is bizarre. Now, I only know one person who's really a Saints Row fanboy, and he may not buy it because I told him about the reviews, and he plays on PlayStation and I'm on Series X. So if I do buy the game at a cheaper price, Black Friday or something, I can't even play co-op with him anyway because there's no cross-platform co-op. And I'm wondering, how is the co-op gameplay performance-wise, or even if it's available right now, because I haven't seen any videos about it. I don't think that they care enough to do it. But that was one thing that Saints Row also had that was interesting compared to like Grand Theft Auto, is the co-op gameplay. So that was pretty cool. Even for this game, they mentioned a feature for this game where if you play co-op and your online partner is at a different point of the game than you are, like ahead of you, when you reach that point in your own save file, it's supposed to remember that and ask you if you want to repeat that mission or not. And if you don't want to repeat it because you already did it, you can skip it and move on to the next one. That's actually a very interesting idea, and I don't know if that's going to be the same for the upcoming Pokemon games, because they do have the co-op gameplay, but we were kind of wondering what would be the, how would they handle co-op for Pokemon coming up. But as I said earlier, and I told this to my brother, who, my brother's probably not going to buy the game now that I told him, but you got to look at all the reviews. You got to go online. YouTube is the best source for, to start with, and then you can go into the other articles if you feel like reading written reviews. But for the most part, they all seem to say the same thing: just don't waste your money on the game. It's disappointing, it's buggy, it's glitchy, it's a waste of money, and you don't want to pay money for a company that doesn't deserve your money. If they're not going to put in the work to provide a product that's worth the money, if they're not going to put in the hard work to provide something that really would make you want to spend the money on the product, then why would you spend the money on it? Even if you're a fanboy, like, oh, I want to support the Saints Row franchise because I'm a fan, that's stupid. Like, they don't care about you, they just want your money, and I don't think you should be spending money for a lackluster product. And especially with gaming, it's very hard to get a refund on video games, especially physical copies. And you don't want to trade it in because then you'll get like a crappy trade-in value. But Yeah, like I said, don't bother wasting your money in this game. It looks terrible. Graphically, it doesn't look that impressive. Gameplay wise, they say it's just repetitive, endless waves of enemies shooting type of thing. Driving is supposed to be meh. It's also certain things about this game, from what I mentioned earlier with the trailers and lack of NPCs and pop-ins and everything like that. It's kind of why I'm also very hesitant on picking up Gotham Knights when it releases in October. I think it's October, but that's just that's a topic for another video in the future. But let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about Saints Row. Were you someone who bought the game and you're disappointed by the purchase, or are you one of those who are like me that's like, hey, I saw the reviews, it looks pretty crappy, I'm not gonna waste my money on this piece of crap. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this content, and hope you guys enjoy the content that I'm going to be releasing coming soon. I've been sick for the past couple days, so I might even be more delayed in my videos. So hopefully I can recover soon and get right back on task. But thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one.